Welcome to the Ordinary Interviews, episode 2. My name is Chris Gomez, and sitting across from me, if you can't see the video because you're watching or you're listening on a podcast, you can check out the video version on YouTube. You can hit up my YouTube channel. Links in the show notes below. I'm talking to Stevie because he has, in my opinion, probably the best coffee shop in Riverside, and there's like 1,000 of them. So I think that's saying a lot. So Stevie, thank you for coming on, man. I really appreciate you taking the time. I mean, just before this, you had to dip out because there's some emergency at the espresso bar or something. So
someone spilled their drink and it knocked out the power up front. So I had to fix it.
Nice. Yeah. Well, life of a business owner.
That's the life of a small business owner for sure.
Sweet. Well, before we get into the nitty gritty of everything, just kind of give us just a general background, like who you are. Like leading up to Arcade, married, obviously, you got some kids, I believe. So just kind of give us the lowdown, the 411.
Cool. So I grew up in Riverside. My parents moved out here when I was 10 years old. So I'm a Riverside guy, went through the school system here. Okay. And then went to California Baptist University. Yep. And I went to school to be a pastor, whereas working at a church and thought I was going to move overseas and be a pastor, plant churches in other countries. And while I was living in China, I met some guys who roasted coffee as a means of having their visas in China. And just had a really incredible experience with them. Yeah. We're eating fresh beans out of the roaster. Dude. We drove up to the Tibetan plateau, and they had taught this Tibetan guy how to roast coffee. So we're like hanging out with him, and so this is like really beautiful like copper roaster. Yeah. So it's just like when I look back, like for me that was the moment where I was really into like coffee and like what kind of like sparked like this whole journey for me. Okay. But I came back to the States and started learning more about it. And I didn't actually go into the industry. I was working at my church, and I worked at Trader Joe's for a little bit.
Nice. There you go.
And I went to seminary for a little too. Okay. And then realized all those things weren't for me, and that I needed to start a business. So
nice.
That's 25 years wrapped into one, and then started the company, and that we started the company back in 2013 is when we started Arcade. So
cool.
Yeah,
that's a perfect little segue too, because I want to talk about now that you are a business owner, Arcade has kind of made like its name in Riverside really quickly. I mean, you said 2013 you guys started. But you didn't start out just like right out the gate like, hey, we're Arcade Coffee Roasters. There was some transitional time between those 2 points. So enlighten me on kind of what that looked like from where you're like coffee to here you are today. Like where was the gap there?
Yeah, so because I didn't go to school to do business. So when we started the company in 2013, the plan was to kind of like start off slow. Yeah. To kind of like just get my foot in the door with it. Friends like recommended that I still hold on to a job while I started it. So the idea was get the roasting company like off the ground, do my training, like learn and like get some accounts while I'm still doing another job. Yeah. And then when there was enough that was like happening in the coffee business, then to jump ship and go full on board with that. Yeah. So that's what we did. 2013 we started the company. I got a job. I was doing music on the weekends for a church, and just was working my tail off midweek to make the coffee thing happen. Yeah. So that's kind of like how we started, and then we were partnered up with those guys in China. Yeah. And it was a good relationship. I learned a ton from them, but then we kind of had a different idea of like what we wanted to do. I wanted to go more the cafe route and do what we're doing now, and they were more interested in importing green coffee, which crazy enough, like we actually are importing, or we're using their coffee at our shop now. So nice. There's still this like cool connection that we get to have with them, but we bought out their ownership of our location, and that's when we actually became Arcade. Okay. And again, we kind of like started slow. We were still doing the roasting thing, but we opened the back of our warehouse.
Yes.
And it started giving out coffee. I'm sure you've heard the story.
Yeah.
Started giving out coffee as a way to connect with people and just start getting the name out there. Yeah. We figured free coffee, like people are gonna dig it and word will spread.
Right.
So it worked. We did that for about like 9 months, and then health department shut us down because we wouldn't have any permits or anything. So got a slap on the wrist, closed it down, and then we found this place, and 6 months later we were open here.
Nice.
Yeah. So it's been a journey. Definitely not anything that I thought I'd be doing, or where we're at now is not what I thought where I thought we'd be, you know.
Yeah.
But it's pretty cool, pretty humbling, and I'm excited to be doing it.
Yeah, and like just that snippet like triggered like 14 like questions in my mind. So I'm gonna try and hold on to at least 2 of them.
Yeah.
I mean, so health department rolls up
Uh-huh.
and they say, can't be doing this. You gotta shut it down.
Yep.
That could have very well have been like, oh, we're done. Like we're just gonna be roasters. Like forget it. Like, was there a moment that crossed your mind where it's like, that's a wrap? Like let's put the kibosh on this thing, or was it like, okay, like a roadblock or a detour you had to take? Which, you know, what was your mental state going through that?
Yeah,
experience?
so we knew it was gonna happen. It was just for us. It was like, this is gonna happen. We used to talk about it like in our partner meetings, like, hey, this is gonna happen. When this happens, what's the game plan?
Dang. Okay.
So we knew it was coming.
Yeah.
It was just a matter of time.
Yeah.
So we were already like experimenting with the ideas of, could we turn that warehouse into a coffee shop? And you know, what would that look like? The owners of the warehouse didn't want us to do that. That we were bringing like too much traffic to that area. They just didn't want that.
Yeah.
So we started looking around, and for me it was always like this is just like a small step, you know. I mean, our like phrase that we say is like crawl, walk, run, you know, with like different ideas. Okay. So for us it was like, let's try this out on a small scale, see if it works, see if it gets any feet. And if it works, people start showing up and start buying it, then people want it, so let's, you know, take the next step. And that's when we started this, like that was our idea too, is like the tasting room is going to be a lateral step for us. It's not like really a step forward. It's like, okay, we were doing the roasting and we had a small cafe kind of like experience on the side of that.
Yeah.
Roasting is still our main business, but let's just try this other thing that like seems to be like taking off. Let's just try it, you know?
Right.
So we started doing that, and then more and more people were buying into it. Now that's like taken over, and that's like the majority of our business, you know, 75% of our revenue comes from that. So
dang, that's crazy, because you took a gamble in a sense on something you hadn't originally planned to do. You were able to navigate a detour that you saw coming down the road. You had the foresight, which I think is really wise of you guys to know, okay, we're gonna bend the rules a little bit. Like we know this is gonna happen, so let's get our heads wrapped around 6 months down the road, so that way we can pivot accordingly. And me doing these interviews and talking to people like you, like Nolan, and you know, future guests, my whole objective is for people to see the story behind the grandeur. Like people see Arcade as it is now,
right.
But they don't know, you know, they probably don't know that you were shut down by the health department when you first started out. That you had these roadblocks, these things going out, and that you were primarily focused on roasting. You know, I didn't know that initially until I think you shared that at your talk at CBU, which is kind of was like, I got to talk to this guy because he's got some cool stuff to talk about.
I mean, to your point there, like nobody really sees like all the work that goes in ahead of time. You know, a lot of times you think like, oh, it's an overnight success, and they didn't see, you know, the 5 years, the 10, the 20 years leading up to when you get like recognized or whatever. And I mean, I would not say like we're successful yet. Like I think we have a lot more stuff to like figure out and do here. So I don't know if people think we're an overnight success, but there's a lot of work, there's a lot of effort to get to where we're at now.
Yeah, you know? Man.
So
the overnight success stuff, it's just, and that's kind of again like why I wanted to talk, is just to hear, because I would, from an outsider who probably is funding your kids' college funds at this point, I frequent your shop a lot. I think Arcade has marked its, you know, territory, has stuck its flag in the ground in Riverside and said like, we're here. And not only Riverside, I did a Google search on Arcade Roasters just to see what popped up. There's a few things that came up, but one that struck me the most is you guys posted on your Instagram about the food and wine. There was a blog or article written, and you were I mean, that's a big deal,
Yeah.
you know, to be recognized, and everybody on the outside say, dude, Arcade's killing it. But you're like, nah, we're not done.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
there's always something more in the
No,
next level, and the next
there's a lot
phase.
more. There's a lot more ahead of us for all of this. So,
Yeah.
Hey.
All right. That's why I need a studio, but
Yeah.
one day.
One day.
So yeah, the food and wine thing, that was something I want to bring up too. And then also in looking back, like Kickstarter. I wanted to talk about Kickstarter because I think a lot of people look at Kickstarter as the easy way to get a ton of money, and I'm going to be rich. I'm going to have all this, you know, funding I need. What was that experience like for you guys? Because my connection was Jeff Govea had posted about it and talked about the funding and the party.
Yeah.
I remember that vividly. And I was like, dude, this coffee shop's kind of getting some traction. This is really cool. I can't wait to see what happens.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm sorry, I didn't fund.
You're
bad.
Good. You're good.
But
some of my friends didn't fund. It's okay.
Dang, that's crazy. But I want to talk about the campaign aspect of it, because you guys got funded rather quickly, it seemed like, on the timeline.
Yeah, we made it maybe like a week or two to spare.
Yeah. And then you went above and beyond, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, we were trying to raise 15,000. We got to like 19, I think.
Yeah.
So I mean, for me, I mean, it takes a lot of money to open a coffee shop. So when we did the Kickstarter, it was more of like activating our community, and it was more of like a marketing thing for us.
Yeah.
I mean, we needed the money.
Right.
We didn't end up having to take out, you know, an extra $20,000 in a loan because of the Kickstarter, which was super helpful.
Yeah.
But for us, it was like we had been investing so much in our social media and in our following, and we gave coffee away for 9 months. And built a name up with our pop-up that we were doing.
Yeah.
And then through our Instagram, we were trying to like provide content and value to people like nonstop. And it was constantly giving. We didn't really do the ask. And so when we did our Kickstarter, it was like, okay, here's our chance to like do the ask and like connect with people, and ask them to like buy into like what we're doing, right? It's like constant give, and then the ask. It's kind of, I don't know, have you ever heard Gary Vee talk about it? I was gonna say,
it's like his jab cross or whatever.
Yeah. So I mean, that's kind of like where the idea came from, is like, this is actually my phrase. So I would rather lose like $1 today to like make $1 million tomorrow. So it's like, I'm not like super concerned about like giving stuff away, and like, because what that does, it creates buy-in with people, and they believe in like what you're doing, they're stoked on you, and then they are a customer for life, right? So we try to find like those like things that we can like add value to people, constantly add value, with the hope, like knowing one day they'll like buy in, and like be a long-term customer, you know? So
I remember following your page before buying a cup of coffee, because as a photographer, I like following people who provide value, who create inspiration for me, who like I can see a new take. And I almost wish he was here, but Shane is in charge of overseeing your social media. And I knew Shane back from like our heyday of like the IG world of like running around to like Insta meets and this and that.
Yeah, for sure.
So I remember connecting with him a while back, and then finding out he was running that. I was like, oh, like a photographer I already enjoy is running a brand in it for a company that's local to me. I'm gonna follow. It seems like he's consistently finding new ways to promote and to showcase what you guys do, and you guys are kind of pushing the books and trying new things almost every week. I remember you guys did Skate Mondays. I remember those. Now it's the Sip and Pass, or the what is it, Munch and Pass, you know, featuring your menu. So I think if you guys aren't following, I'm going to address the camera, but also the listeners, if you guys aren't following Arcade, I'm going to drop a link to their Instagram to make sure you can follow them, because their content is some of my favorite.
Cool,
and
thank you.
It's good stuff. It's entertaining.
We've really worked hard on it. So I saw that in Shane, and saw like how good he was, and I was like, I have to have this kid on my team. Like, he was just a kid in our youth group at our church. You know?
No kidding.
And that's how we like developed the relationship.
Okay.
And I'm like, dude, this guy like has to be a part of this, whatever we're gonna do with this, like he's got to be a part of it to help us get to the next level. And we've like really pushed him a lot to grow and develop that skill. So he's killing it, man.
Yeah.
He's really, really talented, and we're really fortunate to have him on the team as a partner.
Yeah. He's I've noticed he's fallen off posting his personal page, because I checked and I was like, what's Shane posted lately? And it's just all arcade, which is great. And I mean, you guys have a substantial following and a great engaged community, and that's just an extension of your brand. And the fact that you guys were able to get the ask on your Kickstarter so well, I think is can be attributed to your engagement on the Instagram and the social platforms, because you had people bought into a brand before you had like a physical brand in a sense. And I think that's in order of operations, people might think, well, no, I got to have a place, that's the thing, I got to have the thing created before I can start creating community around it. No, you had a community based around where you were headed in your destination. And I think that's a really novel approach, or maybe I just misunderstood, but I think most people in your mind when creating a business, you're like, okay, I got to have the thing, then I'll start the promotion, I'll start all this, but you guys flip that on its head, and the success is showing, and the hard work is showing here really well. And I mean, I got here at 12:30 to the shop, and it's packed. I mean, that's a testament to what you guys do, and the success. That's really rad.
Thanks.
So I'm cheating and looking at my notes here. So there's the one thing that stuck out from me listening to you talk at CBU was the difference in culture. And I think, like I said, there's like 1,000 coffee shops. You have your Augie's, you have your Lyft, you have your Molinos, and then you have the other ones that are just kind of out there floating around. You're surrounded probably by 6 Starbucks in a 2-mile radius. That's probably actually reasonable, not exaggeration. So what do you attribute your success in that respect to? I'm kind of alluding to the fact, I think it is your culture and what you guys have set up. And so managing that is a challenge in of itself. But talk about what the difference in culture is in arcade, because there's something different when you walk in.
Yeah, for sure. So I think what everyone's experiencing is just like what naturally exudes out of like me and Shane. Like Shane and I are people that on the Enneagram, we're like 7s. We're 7s and 8s. I'm an 8 and a wing 7. He's a 7 wing 8.
Okay.
And we both like love people and love connecting with them. When we first started arcade, we like got up in the mountains and like took a weekend to just like think through like, who do we want to be? Like, what's different about us than everybody else, right? I mean, we're selling a commodity product. Coffee's a commodity, so why are people going to come buy coffee from us? And so we came up with a purpose statement: to enrich lives by inspiring others to create shared moments, relationship, and a sense of belonging for all. And so that is like the essence of arcade. And then we just started living it out, right? Create shared moments. How do we create shared moments with people? And as people walk through the doors, like, how do we make them feel like they're a part of our community? And so, I think that just kind of like naturally exudes out of us who we want to be.
Right.
The thing that's been the trick for us is like, now like both of us are removed from like the bar. We're not working the bar anymore. I've probably been off bar for like 6 months, and Shane recently came off bar maybe like a month or 2 ago. And so now we're trying to figure out like, what was it that we were doing that made people feel like they were part of our community and like welcome here. And so we spent some time coming up with like our core values, and we have this thing called like the 3 T's. We greet people within 3 seconds of them walking in the shop. We have a thoughtful experience, and then we tie it in. We tie in that experience at the end. So this is like, that's one of the many ways that we're like instilling the culture like in our people, and making sure that they're providing like the same experience that we were providing when the two of us were working bar together. You know? So
and I think culture is a tough thing to disseminate amongst other people, because you have to take someone's like life experience and then have to kind of integrate your your vision for your company and for, you know, your community here, and try and make sure that's executed at every pour, at every transaction, at every greeting. How do you like reinforce that? Do you guys have like a reinforcement of like just through meetings or, you know, one-on-one conversations? Like, how do you guys ensure that you're, you know, creating shared moments for people out, you know, when you're not behind the bar, you know, that's tough.
So I think the first way that we do it is just, we're very intentional in how we hire people. So
smart.
We hire people who already naturally are like that. So, I mean, our hiring process is like, I mean, some people it took them like 3 to 6 months to get hired here. Like they were like showing up and constantly checking in and stuff like that. So we're very intentional about that. So hiring the right people. We do have meetings, like team meetings where we talk about those things that are important to us, and then we're constantly like reinforcing it. Like our managers are bringing that up, and then I mean Shane and I are around enough too to where we can still like influence that culture and make sure that like it's still happening. I mean, there's nothing that drives me nuts more than anything like when I'm like sitting in the shop and I see someone like walk through the door and they're not greeted right away. If my barista doesn't do it, then I'll do it from the bench to like let them know like I see you, and then maybe I'll come around and I'll serve them. But I mean, for me, like the customer experience is like so important. Like that's like number one. Like if we don't have the customer, if they're not enjoying themselves here and feeling welcome, they're not going to come back, and we don't have anything, you know? I mean, who cares about like us having good coffee if like people aren't having a good experience? So that, I mean, that's like one of the many ways, and it's evolving too. I'm figuring out now how to lead from being removed, you know? I mean, you know, at first it was me, Shane, Kyle, and Corey, and I was like constantly investing in them. And so I had one-on-one opportunities with them to, you know, when they weren't doing something that I thought they needed to do, like we could talk about it. We were having one-on-ones constantly, like having conversations. And now, you know, we've got like interns that like they show up, I don't even know their name because like someone else hired them, you know? And so I'm trying to figure out how to get them on board with the vision and the mission, and leading through like my leaders. So I don't know. It's a process right now that we're like figuring out too. So
man, that's exciting, and that's got to be a challenge because you have to, as you know, pour into your management. Let's say they grab 80%. You know, that becomes a little bit more diluted as it goes down the chain. So ensuring that it's getting to the end of the row, you know, that water's getting to the end of the row, and making sure everybody's getting what they need. That's definitely a new phase, I'm sure, for you. And so it'd be
it's a big deal for sure. It's definitely a big deal.
It's a good problem to have. I mean, because you're multiplying yourself.
You're right.
But it is still, I won't call it a problem, a challenge.
It's a challenge.
It's probably a better term. Dude, that's really cool. And I think if anybody can take away anything from my conversation with Nolan and this is both times the conversations led to culture and how important that is. Because if you just let it sit and kind of, you know, not address it, because you use the word intentional, and that's the word you have to use in talking about culture. Otherwise, you know, you could have, you know, even if you hire the right people, they carry out a different experience each time with each customer. But if you don't have that set guidelines, those core values, those things of, no, this is why we are Arcade, and this is why we're going to be better than everyone else because of these things, or you could just let it default to whatever, and that's a dangerous place to be because you don't know what you're going to get on the other end. At least here you've got objectives and guideposts to check into and say, this is what we're doing, this is who we are, this doesn't align, so we're not going to do that. And so, but you know, you mentioned evolving. You have to be, I think, also flexible to see like where you're headed and have that foresight to adjust accordingly, because who Arcade was 6 years ago when you guys started is obviously not who Arcade is today. But I think there are some staple things that, you know, non-negotiables that you guys will probably always hold on to, I imagine. But how you execute some of those things might very much change in the next, you know, 3 years, you know, 10 years. I'll call it 10 years. You guys have been around forever.
I appreciate that. And that's that's funny that you say that. One of my goals, like one of my personal goals, is to create an enduring company that lasts. So, I mean, I want arcade to be around for like my grandkids, you know, like I want them to know about arcade and like somehow like providing for them, or I don't know, something like that.
Yeah. No, that's great, man.
Yeah.
And leaving a legacy, something beyond what, beyond yourself. Is a great goal to have.
For sure.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about like where arcade was, and we're kind of alluding to, what's next with talking about the challenges of culture. So what's in the 6 month to 12-month plan for arcade? Where are you guys headed, if you can divulge some of those secrets? Don't want to give away secrets of the trade.
So it's funny how like plans change so much. I mean, you have to have a plan. You have to have a game plan of like where you're gonna go. I had no idea that this is where we're gonna be.
Yeah.
It's definitely was not like in our plan to like be where we're at right now. And so our current plan is to open up a second location.
Okay.
We're going to be opening up in downtown. We brought on a new partner, which is really incredible. I mean, for us, like if we want to be like the premier, like the best coffee in the Inland Empire, like felt like we need to be in the heart of like what's going on in Riverside. And so not leaving our roots and not leaving where we're at, because this location is so important to us.
Yeah.
But yeah, getting into downtown and using that opportunity to be there, and then focusing on our subscription program too. And getting that built out. So those are kind of like the two big things that we're working on right now.
Cool.
To kind of like take us to the next level.
Yeah. So do you have a location lined up in Riverside, or are you kind of general downtown area?
Yeah, no. Our partner is building a building down there, and so we're moving into that building on the corner of Main and 9th Street.
Okay.
So catty corner from City Hall.
That's prime real estate.
Yeah,
man.
dude, it's a cool spot. It's what's cool about it too is it has like the essence of arcade, so it's a little off the beaten path. So it's on Main Street still. Yeah. But it's not on like University or Mission Inn, like where there's a ton of activity. It's removed a little bit down on 9th Street. So it still has that kind of like vibe of like you still kind of have to look for it. Yeah. It's not like super flashy, like in your face. But it's definitely a cool location. Yeah. We're gonna have this really incredible like outdoor seating too that we're really excited about.
Awesome.
It's gonna be a space that like is not in Riverside. Like there isn't gonna be anything like it. So I'm really excited for that. And what's cool is that like my partners like really believe in it too. Like they really like believe in like what we're doing. So I don't know. It's really humbling to like be a part of this. Like for me, like Arcade's not about me. It's not about Shane. It's about like what we're doing and accomplishing together. Yeah. I think that's like what's really cool and like refreshing about it for us is like, dude, this is something that our community like just wants and like they're making happen, So I don't know, I'm just stoked to be a part of it.
Yeah, man, that's to join, I think, like the ranks of the downtown Riverside, like, retail, the food, that this scene, like everything that's happening in Riverside is really cool to watch. I grew up in Corona. Mm-hmm. I've moved around a few times, but I've always liked Riverside as a city, especially as I got to like my mid-20s. I was like, Riverside, something's happening there. And then I think Forbes named it like one of the top 10 like coolest cities to live in back in like 2013 or 14. At the time I was working at Fairmount Golf Course. Nice. Booking tee times and stuff, and that dropped, and I was like, oh, that's really cool. I work for a place that's on the map. And I think what Forbes said is coming true. You've got places that opened up like Retro Taco, the Food Lab hit and was a big deal. I mean, Jessica Alba rolled through one time. I remember seeing on their Instagram.
I saw that,
like that, Jessica Alba's doing it. It must be cool.
Yeah, for sure.
There's places like Prohibition and Wolfskill, Augie's, which Augie's, I think, did a bold thing, and they opened 2 locations. They've got their main cafe, and they've got like this little pop-up style, or the smaller, a walk-up window rather, in the Food Lab. And so I think you guys will have a little one-up on them with the 2 cafes in Riverside, and I think they're far enough removed to serve 2 different communities 100%. Very much so. And I think that's really, really smart and strategic. And it's not just, oh, let's be in Riverside. It's, well, no, like downtown is, now I have a more convenient location. Like I like to be in downtown. If I want coffee, like I mean, I'll go to Augie's.
Yeah,
Augie's
yeah.
is good. Okay,
Yeah,
Augie's,
yeah.
no disrespect, but I mean, knowing Arcade will be down there, I'm really stoked for that.
Cool.
So,
Thanks.
now, just out of my own curiosity, because you started with super limited hours, and that because the whole Augie's thing, like I'll go to Augie's when you guys are closed.
Yeah. Yep.
Is there a plan to expand those hours anytime soon, or is that something that you guys are just you kind of are leveraging in a sense that demand and that's
Yeah. So I mean that's it. We're leveraging the demand.
Yeah.
I mean for us it's we're controlling our labor with it. So it's like if you want Arcade, you have to come get it between 7 and 2 on the weekdays, 8 to 2 on the weekends. If you want coffee afterwards, go to Augie's.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's our plan for this location. Same for the next location.
Okay.
We're gonna experiment with the hours a little bit, and then our plans are to have like some type of like evening thing available too. But it's not gonna be just coffee. We'll do like beer and wine.
Sign me up.
Yeah, some type of like really tasty food.
Yeah.
So yeah, that location actually, because it's an like brand new build, we get to like kind of do whatever we want. So starting from the beginning, we're gonna get it set up as like a food establishment so that we can like do full food, you know.
Yeah.
So we'll have some type of like food offering there as well.
Okay.
We have 2 really incredible chefs on our staff that are, I mean, very talented, and like totally have like the same type of mindset that we have with coffee of like pushing the envelope a little bit, trying new things, doing things that are a little different, as a means of, you know, connecting. So,
yeah. And because talking about buildings, it'll loop us back a little bit to your origins, but can you share a little bit about why Arcade is so hard to find? I think the attachment to some of the nuances of the building are really rad, so I want people to hear about that because that struck a chord with me.
So one of the reasons that we left the Video Town sign up and inside of our space, like we left like the Video Town like blue over the archway into like the back, is to remind us of that we need to show up every single day. I used to listen to this podcast where he would say, success is only rented and the rent is due every day.
That's dope.
So for us, it reminds us that the video rental industry used to be this huge industry. Blockbuster was on top. They had an opportunity to pivot when Netflix came to them and said they wanted to partner together. And Blockbuster like laughed at them and said like, psh, like if that ever becomes anything, we'll just buy them out, you know. And now Blockbuster is like totally irrelevant. So for us, it's a reminder that we got to show up every single day. And then it also plays into this idea of good things are hard to find. Like at our old location, it was like hard to find us. Like people would like drive around for a while, like, you know, couldn't find us in our old warehouse. And so it goes into the fact of like, dude, you gotta know like where it's at. So you either gotta show up with a friend or you just gotta, you know, be a millennial and just like know how to find this kind of stuff. And like spreads through word of mouth. So I mean, we try not to do any marketing other than like through Instagram and Facebook, and just, you know, tell your friends about us. So there's like a few reasons why we've kind of like left it the way it is. So
it's got this almost like speakeasy vibe. Like
you gotta know,
for sure. You gotta know the times to show up, because you show up at 2:30, you're not getting coffee.
No.
You're going down the street to Lyft to get some coffee.
For sure.
If you don't know like exactly which street to turn on, because there's no stoplight or signal to like with this big like, hey, it's right here. And I remember like a few times like I've had like trying to direct friends here. They're like, where is it? I'm like, it's like it's there on the left hand side, like. You'll find it. Just Google Maps. Just put it in Google. It'll take you there. Like it's just trust me. And they're like, "Are you sure about this place? This is." I'm like, "Just trust me." And then they come through and they have the coffee. The experience is like, this is where we want to come.
Cool.
So it's been really rad. And
that's awesome to hear.
We're hitting about like 30 minutes. I think we've sweated a lot. I've heard a lot of great things from you. It's a little warm in here, but I appreciate you taking the time, man, and for pushing me. I owe you a personal, thanks, because
you're welcome.
That day at CBU when I hit you up, you're like, okay, just do it.
Yeah,
just push it. And so
I tell entrepreneurs all the time, like, dude, start today.
Yeah, and I think that's the best advice you can give anybody. So if you're an entrepreneur, if you're somebody who's thinking about doing this, just start.
Yeah,
and you don't know what's going to come because Arcade 2013 to Arcade today is very different, I'm sure. And you've had to make pivots and adjustments, and
I mean, the thing that's really great about like starting is you get like feedback from people, right? So I mean, people are going to hear this podcast, and you start getting feedback of like if people like it or not, right? You get a lot of downloads and you're like, okay, cool, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. You don't get a lot of downloads, you're like, all right, I need to figure out like how to get more people, right? Or maybe this isn't what people want, right? So I mean, that's how it was for us. Like, dude, I was selling coffee when I had no business selling coffee. But yeah, I learned a lot from it.
Yeah, and I think the fear of not knowing what to do, or fear of screwing up, all of those things, the fear can hold back so much goodness. And I mean, it's rad, like, to even see where you guys have come from, and to see where you guys are headed, despite, I'm sure, some of the fears that kind of kicked in. I mean, you're a family man. You got kids and a family to care for. So to break out and be a business owner, there's some risk involved. And so that's a tough line to navigate through.
There's a lot of risk for sure.
And so you're not. I mean, if you were 22 and single and not married or anything, it'd be easy. I've talked to Nolan, or talked to my wife and Nolan about this. Just, I want to be a full-time freelance photographer, videographer, but I got a puppy and a wife to care for, man. I said if I was 25 and single, like I would quit last week. But
for sure.
It's tough. So much respect to you to taking that big leap, and,
Thanks, man.
It's inspirational
Appreciate
to me
it.
personally, and I'm sure to tons of people who are sitting in your cafe.
Cool.
So
thanks, dude.
Yeah, I had two questions. I threw it out there onto Instagram. I got one. My buddy just wants to know, is white mocha on the horizon for Arcade?
Oh,
just a quick little.
I've never even thought about doing a white mocha, so probably not.
Okay, there you go. You got your answer, Brandon.
Maybe we'll do it as a special or something like that.
There you go. Okay, and then I had one from someone over at Art Gym, CrossFit Kindle. He just wanted me to ask, who was your best book buddy? And if you don't know what that is, I can tell you who asked that question, but he just wanted to see if you remember.
Dude, was it Dustin? Dustin Means, dude.
My boy Bust. He was like, you got to ask Stevie this question, just see if you remember.
That's so funny.
So I guess
Dustin.
Just give context just for the listeners, because we're on an inside joke here.
Yeah. So when I was in 6th grade, we had book buddies. And my friend Eric, who was Dustin's brother, we just knew of each other, and so started hanging out with Dustin, being his book buddy.
Nice.
So I love Dustin, man. I love you, Dustin. You're a good kid. I like you a lot.
Yeah, Dustin's good people. Sweet. I think we'll leave it there. We're at about 40 minutes, and
cool.
I've lost about 15 pounds of water weight sitting in here. So thanks for braving the heat for the sake of sound,
dude.
Stevie. Appreciate
Thanks for having
you, man.
me. Appreciate it.
Keep killing it, brother.
Cool.
We'll see
Thanks.
you.